Weather across the country, but also in Montreal, that big storm from last night.
Yeah, so yesterday was a wild day. We had basically 2 rounds of weather that went through. There's the first line and there's the second. So let's break it down, the difference between microbursts, as Lindsay was talking about, and a possible tornado. Now, straight line winds with the microbursts, they're straight. They don't rotate, and they are just as vicious as winds that do rotate. Now, how you can often tell the difference is the damage that's left over afterwards. Think of a tree. If you have a tree that's standing up straight and a branch that comes directly down, or a tree that's uprooted, that would likely be straight line winds. If the tree is twisted, that's when you know there was likely rotation. So how we know that these were straight line winds is we look at the radar and we get almost what's called a bow echo, and you don't see a lot of rotation with our radar picture. This came through right around 3 o'clock at Montreal time yesterday afternoon. Then after that, we had a possible tornado. Environment Canada is on scene and going to investigate through today. But if we fast forward to about 5:30, watch this cell right here. I'm going to advance the board, and you see a bit of a counterclockwise rotation as it moves through LACHUTE, just west of Montreal. So this was where we likely saw a possible tornado, and that was closer to about 6 o'clock yesterday evening. Regardless, a lot of damage. You heard some residents in the area talking about how scary it was. The winds were incredible, anywhere above about 80 kilometers an hour up to about 115 kilometers an hour, with a whole lot of rain and hail as well. It's all part of this low that's sitting right over the Ontario-Quebec boundary, and this front is massive. I mean, it goes all the way down pretty well north of Texas. It's now moving its way into Atlantic Canada, bringing rain through New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island today, and then Newfoundland tonight. And already we've got rainfall warnings from Environment Canada, including Burgeo, where we could see up to about 50 millimeters of rain by Friday morning. So localized flooding for sure a possibility. West of that, depends on where this band sits. We've got a special weather statement indicating heavy rain right through Thursday. These rainfall warnings definitely could be expanded as we see the for sure track of where the rain will go. So in terms of rainfall totals, you see it's pretty isolated for now, but again, this could change as that track alters over the next 24 hours. They're not just seeing rain in Newfoundland though, but also down through the Maritimes. It is a rather drizzly day for today and then into Thursday as well. So here's how it progresses. We see this massive low move its way across the Atlantic provinces, those heavy bands of rain really shifting eastward through the day in the Maritimes. So western New Brunswick, you clear earlier and get more sunshine. Fredericton, you might even get sun this afternoon. East of that, though, fairly clouded over and drizzly. That heaviest rain moves in towards Newfoundland tonight as we head into the hours after about 10 p.m. local time. And then we see this band really just sit there and hover over Newfoundland, slowly stretching its way eastward by the time we head into Thursday evening. Then the heaviest rain just sits west of the Avalon Peninsula into early Friday morning. Once that moves its way out, we get much milder conditions moving in, but with those milder conditions comes cool air. This morning, if you are waking up in Ontario and Quebec, it is chilly. These are not the current temperatures. These are the current temperature changes from yesterday. So in Toronto, it is 10 degrees cooler right now than it was this time yesterday. Ottawa, 5 degrees cooler. Sudbury, 8 degrees cooler. You almost need a jacket this morning, depending on where you are. There's sunshine for sure, but it's definitely starting to feel like fall. I just said it. I did. It's August 23rd. Don't worry, summer's still on. In terms of what you can expect this afternoon for your daytime high, here's your local forecast. So right around 3 o'clock, you just got to hope that nobody was leaving work early yesterday and trying to travel through that. Obviously, some people on the roads, and hopefully they got to where they needed to be safely. This morning, if you are waking up, it is cooler. After those storms moved through, left behind a lot of cool air over Ontario and Quebec, and so we're seeing temperatures dramatically less than they were yesterday, which is funny when you look at the whole country, because Toronto yesterday, I don't know if you remember, but it was sitting closer to about 24 degrees. Right now, 14. Compare that to the west, and we've got 13 right now in Calgary. But it is a drop compared to yesterday. Halifax, 19 right now, and 16 in St. John's, Newfoundland. Charlottetown still in the 20s. Now, we've got the low that brought those storms yesterday still sitting over northern Ontario and central Quebec, and the front associated with it is just massive. This is a cold front, and it's cutting through air that to its south was very hot and very humid. And so that's part of why we're seeing such intensity with the storms yesterday, and now with that continued rainfall in Atlantic Canada today. With the passage of the storm, we're also seeing very gusty winds. So not only is it cooler in Ontario and Quebec today, it's also quite breezy. Atlantic Canada, where the temperatures are a touch milder, it's wet and it's windy as well. So the heaviest rain this morning is right along the Gaspé Peninsula through New Brunswick. This is going to shift its way eastward through the day today. eventually getting up towards Newfoundland as we head into tonight, and that has prompted a rainfall warning for the areas in the green and a special weather statement for areas in the blue, because rainfall totals will be anywhere between about 40 and 50 millimeters by Friday morning, and that could prompt some localized flooding. In terms of the forecast today, so high teens, low 20s. Fredericton, Sydney, though, still getting up into that high 20 range. You can see rain pretty widespread across the region. St. John's, the one exception. The Avalon Peninsula really doesn't see that rain until we head in towards Friday. And then Quebec, cooler temperatures today, generally milder though in terms of rainfall. We're seeing much more sunshine today. Ottawa might get a few lingering showers, Barrie as well, but generally temperatures just slightly below seasonal. We'll take a look across the country if we can, if my map will advance for me. Nope, we're just so cool for that. Ben and I did the DNA results earlier this year, and it's just neat to see where we come from. You realize that while you might think your family's all from one area, you really can be from all over the world. For example, mine was 96% European, but 4% West Asian. So just goes to show that we're all much more diverse than we think we are. This morning, we're obviously following the active weather. Last night in portions of southern Quebec, right through the Montreal area, there were straight line winds, very gusty winds with this microburst that went through about 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the Montreal area. No likely rotation there. These were winds that were very, very strong, violent winds up to about 115 kilometers an hour. But a couple hours later, fast forward to about 6 p.m., and this cell that pushes through LACHUTE was likely rotating. And so Environment Canada is now going to investigate through today to determine if there was a possible tornado in the area. Now, that system moving its way into Atlantic Canada, so heads up, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, you have heavy rain in Labrador expected through today with this system. But in behind that, we're seeing a big cool down. It is much chillier this morning and even into the afternoon across the region. These aren't your current temperatures. These are just the temperature changes over the last 24 hours. So you can see right across Ontario and then eastward and towards Montreal, it is in some areas significantly cooler today than it was yesterday morning. You'll want a jacket in some communities for sure down into the southwest of Ontario. It's also quite windy as well right across much of Ontario, save for the northwest, and then east towards the Atlantic. So that rain that's moving its way through the Atlantic provinces, some areas seeing quite a bit of precipitation through today. It really amps up as it heads up towards Newfoundland tonight. In fact, we have rainfall warnings for the Burgeo area. Up to about 50 millimeters of rain is possible. And that's kind of the bullseye for now, but we could see this shift east or west. Rainfall warnings may be extended through the day today. Not the only area seeing rain as we look towards the rest of the Atlantic provinces, much less, but still Fredericton, 15 millimeters of rain. Nothing to scoff at. Cape Breton, up to about 40 millimeters of rain is possible. So we'll watch the system move its way eastward, bringing those bands of rain right through the Newfoundland area, right along the Nova Scotia coastline overnight tonight. And then slowly we see that rain intensify overnight tonight into Thursday, eventually sliding its way eastward towards the Avalon Peninsula and setting the west up for much calmer conditions. Western Canada, we do have some rain in southern Manitoba and into central Alberta. This afternoon, there is a thunderstorm risk right around Edmonton and in the foothills, and then we enter into some much cooler conditions for the west heading into the next couple of days. But it's advisable that you send that to Environment Canada. That's how we determine what type of windstorm it was. When you're seeing trees that are separated fairly cleanly from the trunk itself, that likely was a straight line windstorm. If they're all twisted and gnarly looking, that's when you likely had rotation with your winds. So if you have pictures of the damage, connect with Environment Canada or send them my way, and I can also hook you up that way. So Atlantic Canada now dealing with the effects of that storm. It slid its way through Ontario and Quebec, and now it's right along the Gaspé Peninsula through New Brunswick, hitting southern Nova Scotia as well. This band will move its way eastward through the day today, so you'll see fleeting rain depending on where you are, clearing west to east. Eventually moves its way up towards Newfoundland tonight, and that's prompted the rainfall warning in the green. Burgeo, 50 millimeters of rain by Friday morning. So that means localized flooding for sure a possibility. Just outside of that area in the blue, that's a special weather statement because you're just outside of that heaviest band of rain. And again, that starts tonight and then lasts through Thursday. So in terms of your highs today, we've got the rain moving its way eastward. St. John's today, mostly you're just sunny, 25, no big deal. In behind that, Quebec, Ontario, it's cold today. Sudbury, 14 degrees, Timmins, 11. Temperatures well below seasonal right across the province because that system's moved through. The upside is that as that front, that cold cold front moved its way eastward, it cut through the humidity. So it's definitely feeling like the temperature you're seeing on the screen. Winnipeg is cold for you today. You warm up tomorrow, but 16 is all you'll get to today with the rain. We're seeing that heat on in Saskatchewan and Alberta, though you do have a cool down in towards Friday or so. And then the heat is on into the interior of BC, 32 today in Kelowna, but still those air quality advisories persist for the BC interior. That's a look across the country. Now here's your forecast a little bit closer to home. We're seeing a shift in the forecast, an ominous shift towards fall, even though we're still in August. But when we head in towards our cooler seasons, we often see our coldest temperatures smack in the middle of our country. And that's what we have this morning. We've got this pocket of blue sitting right over portions of Manitoba and northwest Ontario. More moderate temperatures as we're heading out towards the coastlines. So it's chilly, depending on where you are. Southern Ontario, for example, despite the fact that it's 15 right now in both Ottawa and Toronto, it's about 10 degrees cooler than it was this time yesterday. Part of the reason why it's cooler is this low that brought the severe, significant weather to the Montreal area yesterday has now moved its way eastward. And in behind it, it's wrapping in that cooler, I hate to say it, but cooler Arctic air through the province of Ontario and then through southern Quebec as well. So you'll notice for sure today it's colder, about 5 degrees colder right now in Ottawa, 5 degrees colder in Montreal in comparison to this time yesterday. It's also quite windy across the east as well, and that rain that was through southern Ontario, eastern Ontario and southern Quebec yesterday, now shifting its way through the maritime provinces and up towards Newfoundland, Labrador tonight. So significant rainfall anticipated. Burgeo, you've been downgraded in the last hour as we're seeing that shift westward of our band of rain, but it likely will move in this evening. We're also seeing fairly decent rainfall totals through the maritime provinces as well. 30 millimeters possible in Miramichi, 16 in Cape Breton. So again, pretty rainy today. We see that band of rain move its way eastward through the Maritimes, clearing west to east. So inland New Brunswick, you'll likely see clearing sooner, but westward towards the Atlantic, that's where it'll stay cloudier. And by the time we head into tonight, that's when the heaviest band really starts to set up after about midnight local time. So we need to soak up any good view we can of the Atlantic, right? We got this great viewer photo. Can we share it? With our rain, it is cold in Winnipeg and Brandon this afternoon, only getting up to the mid-teens at most. It does get better into tomorrow. Saskatchewan, the heat is on. Same story in Alberta. Likely to see some severe thunderstorms developing around the Edmonton area, just off the foothills. Later on today, west of Edmonton, hail. Heavy rain is your biggest factor, and then cooler air will move in as we head into Friday, and air quality advisory still at play in BC. Canada through Montreal yesterday, that also blew through Ottawa, leaving extensive damage in its wake, is now sitting, well, the front is sitting over Atlantic Canada, and so that's bringing rainfall through the maritime provinces today. We've got this band of rain, it's slowly trucking its way eastward, and so know that clearing will happen first west to east. Fredericton, you may get sun to round out the back end of your day, but still getting up to 28 today. Much cooler where it's likelier to be cloudier and windier and rainier through the day today. Up towards Newfoundland, we've got some rainfall warnings in effect through the Burgeo area. Up to about 50 millimeters of rain is possible. St. John's, you'll likely stay dry and sunny through today, but that rain moving in for tomorrow. And the rain is forecast to hit Newfoundland as we head into the late hours of tonight and into the overnight hours. Now, in through Quebec and Ontario, it's cool today, but it's sunny. That's the upside. 19 in Quebec City, 22 for Montreal, 21 in Ottawa. Windy as well. You almost need a fall jacket. I did this morning because it's not all that hot. Barrie, 19 today, 16 in North Bay, 14 in Wawa, Ontario. Lots of sunshine, though, across the region. Then we hit Manitoba, and the cool air continues, but it's wetter. We've got some rain moving through southern Manitoba this morning. Brandon, you're a touch warmer than Winnipeg. Don't sweat it. It's just one day. Into tomorrow, the sunshine returns across Manitoba and temperatures start to rise. And then we really see that heat for the prairies. This won't last forever. Alberta and Saskatchewan, Alberta, you lose the heat as you really head into about Friday. It rebounds for the weekend. Same story through Saskatchewan, but a scorcher of a day. Hot in BC as well, but that's also where we're seeing the continued wildfire situation, plus air quality advisory still at play for the southern BC interior. 32 today in Kelowna. Canada, that's a look across the country, but now let's take you a little bit closer.